And have a seat. I apologize for the delay. I guess you're on now. Apologize for the delay, truly. We had an issue that came up with one of your fellow jurors that required that we allow the juror to be excused. So it just took some time to get through that. I apologize. But we're ready to resume, so the state can now call their next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Deputy Carmine Siniscal.
Deputy Siniscal. Deputy, if you'll come up to the front for me, please, sir. If you raise your right hand, the clerk will administer the oath to you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Sir, if you'll come right around this way and have a seat for me. And you can adjust that microphone as you need. Just speak loudly into it so everybody can hear you. Ms. Wolfson?
Good morning, Deputy. Could you please state your name and spell it for our record?
Carmine Siniscal, Siniscal.
Deputy Siniscal, where are you currently employed?
Brevard County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you worked with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Almost 8 years.
Do you have any prior law enforcement experience?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and where was that?
I worked over 14 years with the town of Melbourne Beach, which is in Brevard County also. I worked 11 years in New Jersey with the Bricktown Police Department, South Jersey.
Now, Deputy, what is your current assignment within the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Road patrol.
And are you assigned to a particular zone down in Brevard County?
Yes, I am.
Could you tell the jury which zone you are assigned to?
It's 62 zone. It goes from the O'Galley Causeway down to 5th Avenue in Indian Atlantic.
Now, just to give some sort of reference point to the jury, where exactly is Brevard County in relation to Duval County?
It's about 180 miles south.
And approximately how long of a drive is that?
Approximately 3 hours.
Deputy Siniscal, I'd like to turn your attention back to November 24th of 2012. Were you working on patrol that day for Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, I was.
And that was in the 60-second zone?
Yes.
Now, what shift were you working back on November 24th of 2012?
6 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon.
And during your shift, did you eventually come into contact with an individual later identified to you as Michael Dunn?
Yes, I was.
Do you see him here in court today?
He's at the defense table, wearing a gray suit.
In the gray suit. Your Honor, may the record...
Let the record reflect the deputy has identified the defendant.
Now, Deputy, did you learn on that particular day from the late night shift sergeant that there was an arrest warrant out for this defendant?
Yes, I did.
And did you learn that that arrest warrant was for the charge of murder?
Yes.
Is that considered a high-risk arrest warrant?
Yes, it is.
And could you explain to the jury what exactly a high-risk arrest warrant is or what it entails? Let me ask you this question, Deputy. Is a high-risk arrest warrant one that you then take certain precautions when you're going out to serve it?
Yes.
Okay, and could you explain to the jury what sort of precautions you would take?
How you're armed when you serve the warrant.
That morning...
And the tactics that you would take to serve it also.
Okay, and is that because it was for a crime such as murder?
Yes.
Now, that morning on November 24th, 2012, did you ever speak with any members of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
And was that Detective Mark Muser?
Yes, it was.
And did you speak with him over the phone that morning?
Yes.
When you spoke with him over the phone, were you able to get pertinent details to the whereabouts of the defendant?
Not at that time.
Did you eventually at some point learn his address?
Yes.
Okay. And when you learned his address, did you then respond to that address?
Not right away.
Okay, at some point that morning, though, did you respond
Yes.
to the address? And that was 257 Ocean Residence Court?
Correct.
And is that in Satellite Beach?
Yes, it is.
And is that an address then that's within your zone?
Yes.
Who all did you respond to the scene with?
I went with Sergeant Szynski and Deputy Quintana.
Approximately what time did the three of you arrive on scene that morning?
I believe it was approximately 10:32 in the morning.
Now, can you describe for the jury what type of building 257 Ocean Residence Court is? Meaning, is it a freestanding house? Is it a duplex apartment complex?
It's a townhouse type
And
condo.
Deputy, if you look at the screen in front of you, I'm showing you State Exhibit 98. Does State Exhibit 98 look familiar to you?
Yes.
And is that actually a photograph of 257 Ocean Residence Court?
Yes, it is.
Now, when you all arrived on scene, did you all have a plan in play for how you were going to approach this residence?
Yes.
Could you explain to the jury what that plan was?
I was going to take position at the southwest corner of the complex. Deputy Quintana took the east side, which is the rear of the residence, and Sergeant Szynski took the northwest area of the condo.
Okay, and Deputy, just to kind of, so the jury understands the directions in looking at the photograph, could you put an in where the north side would be of this complex?
It's right here.
Okay. Now, when you arrived on scene, did the three of you have any sort of firearms on you?
Yes, we did.
And what did you yourself have?
I had an AR-15 rifle and my sidearm.
Okay, and was that because, as you stated earlier, it was a high-risk arrest warrant?
Correct.
Once you arrived on scene, did you actually then attempt to make contact with this defendant?
After speaking with Detective Muser, I received his telephone number.
Okay, and then you called the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time did you call that number that you were given from Detective Muser?
Approximately 11:52.
Was it 11:52?
10:52.
Okay,
sorry.
10:52. And when you called that number, did you give him specific orders and instructions on how to come out of the condominium?
Yes, I did.
Could you tell the jury what those specific orders included?
I advised him to come out without a shirt and his hands up.
Now, why did you ask the defendant to come out without a shirt on?
I wanted to be able to see his waistband around his waist to see if he had any weapons at the time.
And after you spoke with the defendant over the phone, did he then come out of the complex?
Yes, he did.
Did he come out of 257 Ocean Residence Court?
No, he actually came out of a neighbor's residence.
And where was a neighbor's residence in relation to 257 Ocean Residence Court?
North.
And when the defendant came out, did he comply with your orders?
Yes, he did.
And he had his hands up and his shirt off?
Yes.
Once he was outside, then did Sergeant Szynski order him to his knees?
Yes, he did.
And did the defendant comply with that?
Yes, he did.
And once he was on his knees, then did you and Deputy Quintana handcuff him?
Yes.
And is that normal procedure when an arrest warrant is being served, to handcuff somebody?
Yes, it is.
And once the defendant was handcuffed, did you then place him in your patrol car?
After searching him, I did.
Okay, and then you transported him to the West Precinct office of the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, I did.
And once you were at then the West Precinct, did you then turn him over to other personnel with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Abel?
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Deputy, total time you were with Mr. Dunn during that day was about an hour and a half, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And during that hour and a half, did he comply with all of your orders?
Yes, he did.
Okay. He didn't show any resistance,
None.
either verbal or physical?
No.
And no violence, not just towards you, but towards anyone that you were with that was law enforcement? Is that
No.
correct? Okay. And specifically, when you first got to the residence, you called him on a cell phone, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you asked him to come out with his hands up
Yes,
and take his shirt off,
without the shirt.
for him to take his shirt off and come out without a shirt on?
Correct.
And to put his hands up, is that correct?
Yes.
And he complied with that as well?
Yes.
Okay. However, at the end of the day, he didn't actually come out of the condo that you all had surrounded, is that correct?
We had the area surrounded, but he came out of a different,
Than where you
Condo.
thought he was?
yes.
Okay. And sir, isn't it true that once he came out, he actually had to alert you all that he was there? Because you were focused on his condo?
The first one to see him would have been Sergeant Szynski.
Okay. No other issues the entire day with Mr. Dunn?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
May he be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Abel?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Deputy, you're excused.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Yes, sir. Philip Miranda.
Philip Miranda, please. Mr. Miranda, if you'll come up to the front for me, please. And raise your right hand, the clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, if you'll come right around this side for me. Yes, ma'am, Ms. McCord, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tell the jurors your name.
My name is Philip J. Miranda,
Spell your first and last name for our court reporter.
Phillip, last name Miranda.
Tell us about your educational background.
I have an associate's degree in criminal justice from Valencia Community College, a bachelor's degree in arts and criminal justice from the University of Central Florida, and a certificate in crime scene investigations.
By whom are you employed?
The Brevard County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
A little more than 3 years now.
What are your current duties with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
I'm a crime scene investigator.
What type of training did you receive to become a crime scene investigator?
Once hired on with the Sheriff's Office, I received 16 weeks worth of training, and plus they have sent me to several crime scene related courses.
Did you receive special training in homicide investigations?
Yes, that would have been part of the crime scene training courses that I was sent to.
Did you receive both basic and advanced training in documenting by way of photography and collection of physical evidence?
Yes, that was also part of the training courses and the 16-week training period.
And would you use digital photography at crime scenes?
Yes, ma'am.
And to collect evidence, were you instructed in the proper methods for doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you requested to respond to assist in searching a vehicle or photographing and documenting a vehicle located at 257 Ocean Residence Court in Satellite Beach?
Yes, I was.
And is that in Brevard County?
Yes, it is.
Is it the practice of the Brevard County Sheriff's Office for each officer or crime scene technician to fully document the details of each case as that case is handled?
Yes, it is.
Are notes made as a normal part of the course of your business?
Yes, ma'am.
Are those notes then put into an official police report?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it aid you in your testimony to be able to refer to those reports if you need to?
Yes, it would.
Who requested you to respond to that residence?
I was requested by one of our homicide agents, Agent Wayne Simmock.
What time were you requested to respond?
He called up at approximately 4:30 in the evening or in the afternoon.
What time did you arrive at the residence?
At approximately 5:15.
Do you carry equipment with you to each scene?
Yes, I do.
Who was on the scene when you arrived?
It was Agent Simmock and homicide agents from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Were the home and garage secured?
Yes, they were.
How was it secured?
The garage door was closed upon my arrival.
And did you speak with the homicide detectives prior to beginning your documentation of the vehicle and any contents?
Yes, I did.
Do you take your guidance from them in that they know more about why a car is being photographed and processed?
Yes, I do. Since it was their investigation and they knew more about the investigation than I did, I took my direction from them.
All right, I'm going to show you a series of photographs that will appear on your monitor. States 98. And let me ask you, sir, tell the jurors, is that the residence to which you responded on that Saturday?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And states 99. Tell the jurors what this photograph is.
That is the photograph of the vehicle inside of the one-car garage.
States 100.
That's a photograph of the vehicle, the front driver's side of the vehicle.
Photograph 101.
That's a photograph of the rear of the vehicle.
And the inset to that photograph.
That is the license plate that was attached to the vehicle.
Photograph 102.
That is the rear driver's side of the vehicle.
Now, sir, had anyone moved this car out of that garage while you were at that crime scene? To your knowledge, the police, from once the police arrived at that home, did anyone say that they had moved the car out of the garage?
When I arrived, no.
And did you document it as it was parked in that garage?
Yes, I did.
Let's go then to 103.
That is the interior side of the driver's side, front driver's side door.
States 104.
That is the front driver's seat.
States 105.
That is the front driver's seat and floorboard with a cartridge casing that I located on the floorboard of the vehicle.
Did you take this photograph exactly as you saw that shell casing?
Yes, I did.
Tell the jurors what a shell casing is.
A shell casing is what ejects out of a firearm after you fire the firearm.
All right, so. Did you collect that shell casing and put it into evidence?
Yes, I did.
All right. Let me show you 106. Tell the jurors what that is.
That is a close-up photograph of the cartridge casing.
Did you find anything else in the driver's area at that time?
I did not.
States 107.
That is the rear passenger's side of the vehicle.
States 108.
That is a photograph of the front passenger side of the vehicle through the front passenger door.
Why did you take a photograph looking through that window?
I took that photograph to show that that is what I witnessed prior to opening the vehicle door.
What specifically did you witness that's pertinent in this photograph?
I observed the glove box to be open and the firearm to be inside of the glove box.
Was it easily recognizable as a firearm?
Yes, it was.
States 109.
That is a close-up of the firearm through the front passenger window.
And was the gun in that exact position as you photographed it at that moment?
Yes.
Did you make any attempt to move that firearm prior to taking these pictures?
No, I did not.
States 110.
That is a photograph of the front passenger seat, glove box, floorboard. And again, you could see the glove box is open and the firearm is in the glove box.
Is it a common practice to take pictures from further away and then get closer and closer as seems to be here?
Yes, it is.
And what is the purpose of that?
It's to show the orientation of the object, the location of the object that I'm focusing in on.
Okay. States 111.
And again, that is another close-up of the firearm inside of the glove box.
States 112.
That is a photograph of the firearm once I removed it from the glove box and placed it in a gun evidence box.
And sir, is it clear that that is a side, one side and then the other side of that gun?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does the holster appear to be different on each side?
No, ma'am.
No, the
Actually,
holster-
one side has a clip and the other side does not have a clip.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry, I thought my question was inartful. States 113, please. Tell the jurors why you took those photos.
Once I removed the holster from the firearm, I took a photograph of the firearm, each side of the firearm.
And is the firearm exactly the same on each side, or is there a difference that for the jury to take note of?
There's different markings on each side of the firearm.
And then states 114.
That is a picture of the markings on one side of the firearm, which explains the manufacturer and the model of the firearm.
And who was the manufacturer of this firearm?
It appears to be Taurus.
And does it tell you what caliber?
It's a 9mm barrel.
States 115.
That is a picture of the magazine that was removed from the firearm.
Tell the jurors what you mean by a magazine.
A magazine is it's where the ammunition or the ammunition source for the firearm is.
Is it sometimes in common language referred to as a clip?
Yes.
States 116.
Those are the 5 cartridges that were removed from the magazine.
Okay. Now I want you to go back to 115. And while some of the jurors may know, some may not, can you explain if there were only 5 cartridges removed from that magazine, why one is shown at the top?
One is shown at the top because the magazine is spring-loaded, which means whenever a round is fired from the firearm, the spring in the magazine automatically pushes up another cartridge into the chamber of the firearm.
So in 115, the fact that a bullet is showing at the top does not mean it was fully loaded at that time. Is that correct?
Correct.
And tell these jurors where that magazine came from.
The magazine came from the magazine well of the firearm.
And was it fully engaged inside the well of that?
Yes, it
Taurus?
was.
Meaning it was all the way up inside?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. States 117.
That is the head stamp of one of the cartridges removed from the magazine. And the head stamp indicates the manufacturer and the caliber of the cartridge.
And sir, tell the jurors the importance of documenting the type of ammunition that was found inside of a gun.
For example, at a shooting investigation, if the casings left at a shooting match up with the casings or the cartridges in the magazine, you can kind of correlate the cartridges from each of the scene and from the firearm.
Yes, sir. States 118.
That is a photograph of the firearm with the slide locked back.
And for what purpose did you lock back the slide and then document it photographically?
We locked back the slide to show that the firearm was safe, it was not loaded, not ready to fire.
And it wasn't loaded at that point because who had unloaded it?
Agent Wayne Simak.
States 121.
That would be a picture of the 5 head stamps on the 5 cartridges, and the top picture is the hollow point projectiles within each of the cartridges.
And so that's just a top and bottom view, is that correct?
That's correct.
And are those the same 5 bullets or cartridges that you removed from the magazine that was fully popped into that Taurus?
Yes, they are.
And states 122, sir, can you explain what that is?
That is the cartridge casing that I located in the front driver's side floorboard.
Were you requested to do any search of the perimeter of that vehicle, the outside perimeter?
No, I was not.
Or the hood, or the trunk, or the windshield area?
No, I was not.
Okay. Did you take all of the physical evidence that you've described in these pictures and put it into proper evidence storage containers that day?
Yes.
Did you allow anyone to touch those items once you photographed them and then began to remove them from the car?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Yes, did you allow anyone other than your fellow law enforcement officers to touch any of these items of evidence once you documented them and then removed them from the car?
No.
And did you put them in proper storage containers?
Yes.
What did you do with those items once you had labeled and packaged them?
They were placed in our evidence room, and they were released, or they were given to, I believe it was Agent Muser of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
The homicide detective from
Yes.
Jacksonville? Tell the jurors why you would go ahead and release the evidence at that time.
Because at that time, it was their investigation, and they felt free to do what they needed to do to continue with their part of the investigation.
All right, sir. And did you then make sure, you and your agency, that the car, the entire car, was properly towed back to Jacksonville, Florida for further processing?
I know it was towed, but I wasn't present at the time it was towed, but I do know that it was towed.
All right. Were you asked to do any further processing on the car, either in Brevard County or up here in Duval County?
No, ma'am.
All right. Your Honor, may I ask your bailiffs to assist me in showing the evidence? It states 194, that table rolls, if you don't mind. And I need the key. May Technician Miranda step down, Your
Yes,
Honor?
sir. Or yes, ma'am.
And if you would come to this side for me. Now, sir, explain to the jurors, this was not your original packaging, is that correct?
No, it's not.
How did you,
Hang on, he's blocking a
My
couple of jurors,
apologies.
so probably going to have to stand almost behind it.
I'm going to move this up. I think we're going to take this out, Judge. You had packaged these items individually, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you had
And
laid...
hang on,
I'm
microphone.
sorry. Yes, sir. I apologize. Should have had you get that. Okay. So you had packaged each of these items individually, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Then I'm going to open this box at this time. Sticking a little bit. Give me 1 second, Judge. There
Sure.
we go. May I have some assistance? Andy, do you mind? Yeah, that's right.
Sure.
Where would you like me?
Actually, maybe around that side.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, and excuse me, I'm going to go back over here. I need you to face our court reporter. Let me try to move out of the way. And I'm going to ask you to start, sir, first with the gun. And can you gently lift that gun and then display it to the jurors? Judge, may we cast the gun only to feel the weight of it, not to test it or anything else? Or would you prefer that we wait?
That's all right. You're going to need your microphone though, too.
Sir?
I don't think that's working.
I'm sorry.
But yes, you can pass it.
It's in the on position, I apologize. I'll just grab it on you. And sir, if you could next remove the cartridge to show the jurors.
The magazine or the cartridge?
I'm sorry, the magazine. Again, I'd ask the court's permission that the jury be able to just pass that
Yes, ma'am.
and have the bullets been removed from that at this point.
Yes.
Crime scene technician Miranda, would you next remove the 5 whole bullets that you yourself had removed from this magazine that had been inside this gun? Okay, that's all right then. So, Judge, I think I'm just going to have to turn this towards both sides of the jury, if that's okay.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
just explain how you got those 5 whole cartridges out of that magazine?
We manually,
Got to step back. We're blocking the jurors. I'm sorry.
the 5 cartridges came out of the magazine by manually unloading it, which means we just kind of slid our finger to pop the cartridges out of the magazine until the magazine was empty.
And at the point that you do this, you are not aware of or responsible for how many other bullets had been in that firearm, how many were fired, or anything else like that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So do you just document what you find and turn it all in?
That is correct.
Okay. And then the next exhibit, sir, that's part of States 198 would be the shell casing. Is that the one that was found at the driver's floorboard?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And again, the difference between a shell casing and a whole cartridge?
In a casing, there's no projectile, there's no powder inside of the casing, as opposed to a cartridge where you have the projectile and you have the powder inside of the casing.
Is it fair to say then, sir, that that is a fired, what's left of a fired bullet
Yes, it is.
that has ejected from the gun?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then the last item in that exhibit, sir?
This would be the holster that was removed from the firearm.
All right. And if you take that small dowel out, and I'd like to pass this to the jurors. Was the gun securely encased in that holster when you found it and photographed it?
Yes, ma'am, the front of the gun was. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, once you properly packaged this and turned it over to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, did you have any further involvement in this case?
I did not.
Judge, I need just a moment to reassemble this and then hear this witness. And Judge, I believe Ms. Abel wants this left as it is that correct?
You can actually block that.
Okay. I'll move over here and put that on.
All right,
But with your permission, I'll wait till recess.
that's fine. We'll just wheel it back over here for now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Abel?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir, or not quite yet, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, the shell casing that you found and was in the driver's floorboard, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So that leads us to believe that that shell casing hadn't been removed since the shooting. It'd been there since this had occurred, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And same with the firearm. When you approached that vehicle, is it true that the glove box was completely open
Yes, it is.
and that firearm was not hidden under any papers? It was in full plain view displayed?
That's correct.
And to talk about, I want to get back to the firearm for a minute. When you do an examination, you're collecting evidence of a firearm. Is there some procedure that you take first to make the gun safe?
The procedure that I employ is I try to photograph it as it is, and then after it's handled for further examination, we tend to unload it and make it safe.
And in this instance, did you do that?
I had an agent help me to do that, but I did photograph it before anything was unloaded from the firearm.
So basically, what you're doing is you're checking that firearm to make sure that there's not a bullet chambered and ready to go.
Correct.
And what was the state of that gun in this case?
There were 5 cartridges inside of the magazine. I don't remember a cartridge coming out of the chamber.
Okay, the chamber was empty, in fact. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. So someone had already made that gun safe prior to your arrival?
That I could not tell you.
Well, that's how you found it, correct?
That's how I found it.
Now, sir, Ms. Corey asked you if you searched the perimeter, the outside of the vehicle. Was it your understanding that that vehicle was going to be towed?
It was my understanding, yes.
And that's towed all the way from Melbourne to Jacksonville?
Yes.
Okay. Now, why would you not then search the outside of the vehicle?
For the information that I had, I was told that I was asked not to because I didn't know that it was going to be transferred over to Jacksonville, and any further processing would be done by them.
Well, did you notice, sir, the 4 shell casings that were on the exterior of the windshield?
I did not see that.
And to be clear from the pictures that we've seen, it's only one gun that you found, correct? Not 2?
Correct.
All the pictures are just showing different sides of the gun, is that correct?
Correct.
And sir, speaking of the interior of the car, the glove box that you searched, isn't it correct that after you searched it and it was towed to Jacksonville, a second magazine was found?
From my understanding, that is correct.
You just missed that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I want to show you what's been marked previously as defense exhibit number 11. And is that on your screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay, sir. Is that just a picture of the same 5 bullets that are on display?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So, do you know the capacity of this magazine?
I do not.
Okay. These 5, but it's more than 5. Would you agree with that?
I do agree.
Okay.
Yes.
So, in other words, these 5 bullets were actually in the gun upon your inspection, left in the gun, in the cartridge or the clip, as we call it.
Correct.
Okay. So the gun had not been completely unloaded or emptied.
Correct.
And just as another view, sir, I'm showing what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 12. Is this a picture of the magazine that you collected?
Yes, it is.
And is that bullet at the top one of the 5, again, that's on display in the case there?
Yes, it would be.
And can you just show the jurors how you can tell that this magazine is not fully loaded? And you can touch your screen if you need to indicate.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Can you just show the jurors how you can tell that this magazine is not fully loaded?
On the back side of the magazine, there are markings that show how many cartridges are in the magazine.
I want to speak to you about the garage door. You have a couple pictures that Ms. Corey showed you. What was the state of the garage door when Mr. Dunn was arrested? Was it up or down?
I couldn't tell you that. When I arrived, it was down.
Okay. But you don't know if someone put that down prior to your arrival?
I do not know that.
And you don't know if that garage door could have been up when Mr. Dunn was arrested?
I do not know that.
Now, sir, with the taking into account, and I'm sorry, how long have you been doing this, sir?
A little over 3 years now.
Okay. And you've worked several cases, I'm assuming?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Taking into account that there was shell casing found on the floorboard, the glove box was open, the gun fully displayed, In your experience, sir, is that the actions of someone trying to hide or cover up a crime?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Ms. Corr?
Briefly, Your Honor.
Sir, how close did you have to get to the passenger side of that vehicle to see the gun that Miss Abel portrayed as being in plain view?
Pretty close. I mean, it was a one-car garage, so I had to basically be next to the the passenger side of the car to be able to get a good view of it, but
And is that garage attached to the home?
that it is.
So it was not in an area where anyone from the public could have gone or where police could have gone without a warrant, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I believe that the front of the car, please, showing the windshield. We're going to pull up one more picture for you, sir. 100, Miss Abel asked you, I believe, whether or not you saw the shell casings that were on the outside of the windshield. Were they on the outside of the windshield or were they down in a well?
From my understanding, they were down in the well.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Sustained.
Well, from your view, taking these photographs, could you see those 4 additional shell casings?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your
May
Honor.
he be excused?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Abel?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You're excused. State's
Thank you.
next witness.
Detective Mark Muser.
Detective Muser, please.
Do you have it on that? Okay.
Detective, if you'll come to the front for me, raise your right hand, the clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. All right, Detective, if you'll come right around here for me, please. And you can adjust that microphone as you need. Be sure and speak up loudly so everybody can hear you. Mr. Guy.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir. If you please tell the members of the jury your name.
Detective Mark Muser.
And Detective Muser, how are you employed?
I work with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with JSO?
10 years.
And your current assignment is what?
Homicide detective.
And how long have you been a detective in the homicide unit?
5 years.
Can you just briefly summarize for the jurors your duties and responsibilities as a detective with the JSO homicide unit?
We investigate all homicides, suicides, accidental deaths, even some natural deaths that occur in Duval County.
Were you a detective in any other divisions before moving to homicide?
Yes, I was.
And what were those?
I was a burglary detective, and I was also a detective in the aggravated battery unit.
All right. And so in total, how long have you been a detective with the Sheriff's Office?
Over 6 years.
And your position before joining the detective division with JSO, what was that?
A patrol officer.
In your law enforcement career, approximately how many death investigations have you participated in?
Hundreds of death investigations.
Let me turn your attention then to the evening of November 23rd, 2012. At that time, were you dispatched to the scene of a shooting at the Gate gas station located at 8251 Southside Boulevard?
Yes, I was.
And is that within Duval County, Florida?
Yes, it is.
All right. Did you respond to the scene?
Yes, I did.
And about what time did you arrive?
Approximately 9 p.m.
Did you later learn the deceased name to be Jordan Davis?
Yes.
And had Jordan Davis's body already been transported from the scene by the time you arrived?
Yes, it had.
Would you explain for the jury then the team concept that JSO employs in handling homicide cases?
Our homicide office is divided into 6 teams. Each team contains 4 detectives and a sergeant supervisor. And on any homicide investigation, the entire team will work that case.
Were you assigned as the lead detective on this case?
Yes.
And did you eventually arrest someone for the murder of Jordan Davis?
Yes, I did.
Who was it that you arrested?
Michael Dunn.
Do you see Michael Dunn in court this morning?
Yes, I did.
Will you please identify where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's sitting at the table over there as a dark-colored suit, and can't see the tie. Multicolored tie.
The table closest to you or further back?
Further away, sitting with next to Miss Hanania.
All right. Judge, I'd ask that the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Let the record so reflect.
Detective Muser, when you arrived at the Gate gas station, had that scene been taped off?
Yes.
And by taped off, I mean police tape?
Yes, crime scene tape and numerous marked police vehicles.
All right. And when you arrived, did you speak with other members of the sheriff's office?
Yes.
Did evidence technicians also respond to the scene?
Yes, they did.
And through your work, did you speak with them as well?
Yes, I did.
While you were at the scene, did you and other homicide detectives speak with witnesses who were present at the time of the shooting?
Yes, we did.
And would those be team members of yours? You talked about a four-man team?
Yes, it was actually my sergeant who was with me at the time.
All right. Among those witnesses, did you personally interview two women named Samantha Ickes and Maria Grimes?
Yes, I did.
All right. And while you're doing that, are other team members interviewing other witnesses?
Correct.
That evening, did your office get a vehicle description and tag number of the car from which the shots were fired?
Yes, we did.
And from that information, were you able to retrieve the name of the person who the car was registered to?
Yes, we were.
And was that the defendant?
Yes, it was.
Did you conduct a walkthrough of the scene?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and tell the members of the jury, what is a walkthrough generally?
Conduct a walkthrough with usually the lead evidence technician, where the two of us will kind of walk around the scene, looking at items of evidence, pointing out based on what we believe has occurred, pointing out what we believe to be relevant evidence to make sure we're on the same page with the evidence technician, and also allows me to get a good visual of the scene, so when I'm conducting interviews, I have a good mental picture of what people might be talking about.
When you walk through the scene, when you conduct a walkthrough, do you disturb any evidence? Do you touch anything or move it or lift it?
No, do not touch anything. That's preserved for the evidence technicians to collect.
All right. Did you or other members of your homicide unit attempt to get surveillance video from outside the gate station that evening?
Yes.
Did the gate station have any surveillance cameras on the outside of the store?
No, they did not.
At a later time, did you or other members of your unit attempt to get video surveillance of any area of the plaza that connects to the gate gas station?
Yes, we did.
And were there any functioning surveillance cameras that covered the plaza area of the parking?
None that were located.
While you were at the scene, did you attempt to interview any of the three young men that had been in the Dodge Durango with Jordan Davis?
No, I did not.
And why not?
Witnesses obviously that close to the involvement, prefer to get them to our office and have them in interview rooms. It's a little more of a controlled environment.
And when you say your office, what do you mean?
The homicide office.
All right. And were those three young men, Leland Brunson, Tevin Thompson, and Tommy Storms?
Yes, they were.
Did you have them transported to the police memorial building?
Yes, I did.
And was that done by a JSO patrol officer?
Yes.
Approximately what time was it then that you left the scene?
Approximately 10:35 p.m.
All right. So that would have been, how long were you at the scene then?
Hour and a half.
All right. And where did you go when you left the scene?
Directly to the homicide office.
All right. And were Leland Brunson, Tevin Thompson, and Tommy Storms already at the homicide office when you arrived?
Yes, they were.
And were they interviewed at the police memorial building that evening?
Yes, they were.
Were the three boys interviewed separately or together?
Separately.
And why was that done?
So when we're speaking to the witnesses, obviously they can't hear what one of the other witnesses is telling us, and that way we can see if we can get a consistent story from the individuals.
All right. And is that a standard procedure that you employ?
Yes.
All right. Were any of the interviews of Leland Brunson, Tommy Storms, or Tevin Thompson recorded either by audio or video?
No, they were not.
And why not?
That's our standard procedure.
Did you participate in the interview that evening of Leland Brunson?
Yes.
And where was that interview conducted?
In one of our interview rooms.
All right. And do you recall about what time it began?
Approximately 11:30 p.m.
And was anyone else present for that interview?
Detective Oliver and Leland's mother.
Okay. And who's Detective Oliver?
He was my partner at that time.
All right. And why was Leland Brunson's mother in the interview room?
Leland was visibly shaken. You could tell it hit him very hard, and his mother was present, and just felt it would be good for him to just have her there.
Overall.
You can finish.
It would just be good to have her there for him, since you could tell it was visibly shaking him.
All right. And was Leland Brunson cooperative with you?
Yes.
Did he answer all of your questions?
Yes, he did.
Did you also participate in the interview of Tevin Thompson?
Yes.
And was that also at the homicide office?
Yes, it was.
Who was present for that interview?
Myself and Detective Oliver.
And about what time did that interview begin?
I believe it was approximately 5 till midnight.
All right. Was Tevin Thompson cooperative with you?
Yes, he was.
Did he answer all of your questions?
Yes.
Did you participate in the interview of the third young man, Tommy Storms?
No, I did not.
And why not?
He had arrived at the office prior to my return to the homicide office, and Detective Oliver was in the office, so he conducted that interview.
All right. During any of those interviews, did you or Detective Oliver, or anyone else to your knowledge, advise any of those three young men that Jordan Davis had actually died?
No, we did not.
Why did you not do that?
Unfortunately, it's been our experience in dealing with a lot of death investigations. When you tell someone who may be close to an end.
Sustained.
Later that evening, and I mean now after midnight, did you again meet with each of those three young boys for the purposes of showing them a photo spread?
Yes, I did.
All right. And what is a photo spread and how is it used in an investigation?
Photo spreads used to try to identify a possible suspect. You have your target individual who you create a photo of, and you put together 5 other photos of people with similar physical characteristics to show to a witness to see if they can positively identify the possible suspect.
All right. And did your photo spread in this case include the picture of Michael Dunn?
Yes, it did.
All right. And is that because you had run the tag number and got that information back?
Correct.
All right. And was more than one copy of the photo spread created?
Yes.
Okay. Did each copy of the photo spread, did it have the same 6 pictures?
Yes, it did.
All right. And why do you create multiple copies?
So if I show a copy to one witness, and if they're able to make any identifying notations on a picture, obviously I don't want to show that photo to the next witness, so I show them a completely brand new photo spread with no markings on it.
And when these photo spreads were shown, were the 3 boys together or separate?
They were still separate.
And why is that done?
Same reason, so none of the other witnesses can know if someone identified anybody from the photo spread.
All right. Who did you show the photo spread to first?
Tevin Thompson.
All right. And before showing the photo spread to Tevin Thompson, did you give him any instructions about how to view the photo spread?
Yes, I did.
And how did you do that?
We have a standardized, basically, instruction form that we read over with a witness prior to showing a photo spread.
All right. And was that form later turned into the property room?
Yes.
All right. And did Tevin Thompson actually sign the form indicating that he understood it?
Yes, he did.
All right. After reviewing that form with Tevin Thompson, did you present the photo spread to him?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
I will have 6 individual photographs on 6 separate pieces of paper. I have them upside down. I will shuffle them upside down so I don't know where the target photo is in the pile. I will hand it to the witness. I will then actually turn away from them so I can't see what they're looking at, so there's no way I could give any kind of facial expression that he's looking at the person we think he would identify.
And did Tevin Thompson identify anyone in the photo spread?
Yes, he did.
Who was that?
Michael Dunn.
All right. Did you have Tevin Thompson sign and date the photograph?
Yes.
All right. Young man, approach the witness.
Yes, sir.
Let me show you what's already in evidence. It's 162, and ask that you examine that. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
The photo spread instruction form that I showed to Tevin Thompson.
And how do you recognize it to be the same?
It has Tevin's name at the top, has his signature, and also has my signature and date and time.
All right. And states 161. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
That's the photograph of Michael Dunn that was identified by Tevin Thompson.
And how do you know it to be the same?
Tevin put his name, date, and I also signed the photograph.
All right. And did Tevin Thompson write anything about the ID on the photograph?
Yes, he wrote, "This is the man that was shooting."
And did you ask him to do that?
Yes.
And why did you ask him to write those words, or how did that come about?
When he said this is the person, I said, write what that person was doing that you're identifying.
Okay. And so that's his handwriting?
Correct.
All right. Very good. And Judge, I'm just going to walk this by the jurors,
Yes,
if I
sir.
may. Detective, who did you show the photo spread to next?
Leland Brunson.
And was Leland Brunson able to identify positively anyone from that photo spread?
No, he was not.
Was he able to narrow it down?
Yes, he was.
Into how many photographs?
2.
Was the defendant one of the 2 people that he narrowed it down to?
Yes.
Did you show that photo spread to Tommy Storms?
Yes.
All right. Was Tommy Storms able to positively identify a single person in the photo spread?
No, he was not.
Was he able to narrow it down
Yes, he was.
to how many people?
2.
All right. And was one of those people the defendant?
Yes, it was.
All right. You know, may I again approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
And with Leland Brunson and Tommy Storms, did you have the similar practice of reviewing the photo spread instructions with them prior to their viewing the photo spread?
Yes, I did.
All right, so let me show you 164 and 166, and just ask you what those are.
These are the instruction sheets that I showed to Tommy Storms and Leland Brunson.
All right, and you recognize them by your signature, their signature, the date, and so forth?
Correct.
All right. Let me get this back from you and show you 163 and 165. Do you recognize those?
Yes.
Are those the photo spreads that you showed to Tommy Storms and Leland Brunson?
Yes.
Okay, and you said that each of them narrowed down the photo spread to 2 photographs, one of which was the defendant.
Correct.
The other person that each of them picked out, was it the same person in the photo spread or a different person?
They picked out the same person.
Okay, can you pull out, the jurors have already seen the photograph of the defendant, can you pull out the other filler photo that Leland Brunson and Tommy Storms identified? All right, Judge, if I can just show the
Yes, sir.
jury from here. They'll obviously can see these later. So this is the filler photo that both Tommy Storms and Leland Brunson narrowed their identifications down to with the defendant?
Yes, it is.
All right. You can have those back from me. Thank you. As you were meeting with each of those 3 young men, were other members of your team performing other tasks in the investigation?
Yes.
And at some point that morning, now we're into the early morning hours of the 24th, did you obtain an arrest warrant for the defendant's arrest?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time was that arrest warrant signed?
3:35 a.m. on Saturday.
So, just several hours after the shooting itself.
Approximately 7.5.
And when was the defendant taken into custody pursuant to that warrant?
11 a.m. that Saturday.
Same day?
Yes,
And where?
in Brevard County.
And would that agency have been then the Brevard County Sheriff's Office that took him into custody?
Yes, it is.
Did you and other Jacksonville homicide detectives drive to Brevard County that same day?
Yes, we did.
And about what time did you arrive?
Arrived approximately, I believe, about 3 p.m.
All right. Had you gone home to sleep between the time of the shooting?
Sustained.
Did you continue to work on the case throughout the night?
Yes.
All right. While you were in Brevard County, did you interview a woman named Ronda Rower?
Yes, I did.
And on what date was that?
It was Saturday the 24th.
Same day?
Yes.
All right. And about what time did you interview Miss Rower?
Approximately 5:15 p.m.
And where did you interview her?
At one of her neighbor's residence.
Was Miss Rower cooperative with you?
Yes, she was.
Did she answer all your questions?
She did.
Did you go to the location of the defendant's residence in Brevard County?
Yes, I did.
And while you were at that residence, did you locate the defendant's black Volkswagen Jetta?
Yes, I did.
And was the interior of that car searched by an evidence technician with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, it was.
Was a firearm found inside the black Jetta?
Yes.
And did you later have that firearm in the Jetta itself actually transported to Jacksonville?
Yes, we did.
When did you and the other detectives return to Jacksonville from Brevard County?
Would have been early afternoon, Sunday, the 25th.
As part of your investigation, did you visit the hotel where the defendant and Ronda had stayed on the evening of November 23rd and the morning of November 24th?
Yes.
And when was that?
Monday, I believe that's the 27th. Correction, 26th.
All right. And where is that hotel located?
It's located in the Deerwood area of Jacksonville, just off of JTB, right near the town center.
All right. What's the name of the hotel?
The Sheridan.
And approximately how far is that hotel from the Gate gas station where Jordan Davis was shot and killed?
I believe approximately 3 miles.
As part of your investigation, did you order and receive cell phone records for Leland Brunson, Tevin Thompson, and Tommy Storms?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just show you 198, 199, and 200. And you can start with 198 if you tell the members of the jury what that is.
These are the cell phone records for Tevin Thompson.
And do the records themselves, in some manner, indicate that those are the phone records of Tevin Thompson?
Yes, it lists him as his name is the subscriber on the phone.
All right, actually on the records themselves.
Correct.
All right, and 199? What is that?
These are the cell phone records for Leland Brunson.
And did you get that obviously through his phone number?
Yes.
All right, is his name, for clarity's sake, written at the top of those records?
Yes, it is.
All right, and 200?
So the cell phone records for Tommy Storms.
And again, for clarity's sake, is his name written at the top of those records?
Yes, they are.
All right. Do each of those sets of records allow you to view what numbers have been called by the owner's number?
Yes.
And do they include the date and time of the calls?
Yes, they do.
Do they include the duration of the calls?
Yes, they do.
And do they include the direction of the call, that is either an incoming call or an outgoing call?
Yes, they do.
All right. Have that back. Thank you. And do those phone records cover the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
Yes, they do.
After November 27th, did you continue to investigate the case?
Yes.
As part of your investigation, did you continue to interview witnesses that may have had information about the case?
Yes, we did.
Did you interview a young man named Christopher LeBlanc?
Yes, I did.
And when was that?
I believe the interview was conducted on, it was the 3rd of December, which would be a week following Monday.
All right. And tell the members of the jury why his interview was conducted then and how his name was located as a possible witness.
When I was reviewing the 911 calls, he had made a call in 911 indicating that he had witnessed the incident. And so I made contact with him and asked to come and speak with him.
All right. Did he agree to do that?
Yes, he did.
All right. Did you also speak with his sister, Alyssa LeBlanc?
Yes, I did.
And when did you meet with her?
I believe it was the 4th of December.
All right. And those interviews occurred on different dates. Were they interviewed separately? That is Christopher LeBlanc and Alyssa LeBlanc?
Yes, they were done separately.
All right. As part of your investigation, did you have items of evidence submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Yes.
And did those items include the defendant's firearm and a DNA swab taken from the shell casings at the scene?
Yes, I did.
And did you receive the results back from those examinations?
I did.
All right. Did you ever go back to the scene of the gate station for the purpose of taking some measurements?
Yes.
And what areas did you measure?
I measured from the parking space, which I believe the Tevin, or actually Tommy Storm's vehicle was parked on the night of the incident, and measured the distance, the route he had driven to a large sign that is basically has the names of all the stores, which is an area a little beyond where he said he drove, just to get a distance measurement.
Okay. And what was that distance?
320 feet.
And how did you measure that? What instrument did you use?
It's a wheel measure that you just roll and clicks off feet as you roll it along.
All right. Let me ask you to look at your monitor. Do you see states number 1 on your monitor?
Yes.
All right. Can you show that? Well, first of all, what is that?
That is the strip mall parking lot and the gate gas station.
Okay, and can you show the area that you marked off with your rolling measurer when you conducted that measurement of 320 feet?
I started in the parking lot,
You got to press kind of hard on that screen.
right in that area. And
All right.
that should be the distance covered.
All right, and do you see, you described a tall marquee of a sign or the business names. Can you circle that for the members of the jury? Okay, so as I understand it, the distance from the parking space that appears on the right of the screen to the marquee with the business names is 320 feet.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I believe you said that Tommy Storm said that they had parked between the two, or he had come to stop between the two?
He had stopped short of that sign.
Okay, so you were, I guess, being conservative by measuring to the sign?
Correct.
Let me show you States 119. What is that a photograph of?
That's a view from Southside Boulevard looking towards the Gate gas station and the strip mall.
Okay, can you circle for the members of the jury then where the Gate gas station is? And that entranceway on the left of the scene, does that provide access to both the strip mall and the Gate gas station?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and is this the area that we looked at in the aerial that is between the Gate gas station and that marquee of business names?
Yes.
All right. States 120, what's depicted in that photograph?
Same ground level view from Southside Boulevard, just looking a little bit more to the north.
And does this photograph 120 include that marquee of business names?
Yes, it does.
Can you circle that for the jurors? In States 137, what's depicted in that photograph?
This is a view into the strip mall parking lot from the Gate gas station parking lot.
And does that look north towards that marquee?
Yes, it does.
Can you, and again, we're using that as a frame of reference. Can you circle the marquee? Let me show you 205. What is that photograph of?
That's a view from the strip mall parking lot looking back into the Gate gas station.
And the foreground of that photograph, is that essentially where the marquee is?
Yes, the marquee would be to the right out of the frame of the photo.
Okay, and that's looking south now towards the Gate gas station.
Correct.
Can you just circle the gate for him? All right. Let me show you States 21. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Is that how the red Dodge Durango and other evidence appeared when you arrived on the evening of the 23rd?
Yes, it does.
States 24, was that a wallet recovered from the scene belonging to Jordan Davis?
Yes, it is.
All right. And States 36, do you recognize that?
Yes.
Is that how the exterior of the passenger side of the Durango appeared that evening?
Yes.
And States 32, you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That's the interior rear passenger seat in the Dodge Durango.
All right, let me show you States 45. You see that?
Yes.
All right. Did you ever examine what was underneath that rear seat?
Yes.
Okay. And is States 45 the rear seat of the Durango?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did you find, and were you with another detective when you did this?
Yes, I was with Detective Oliver and Detective Whittlesey.
Okay. And Detective Oliver is your partner?
Yes.
Okay. Did you locate a tripod underneath that seat?
Yes.
Can you circle that for the members of the jury? All right. The tripod legs, do they have what appears to be white rubber caps on them?
I believe so.
All right. Did you or Detective Oliver attempt to remove that tripod from underneath that seat?
Yes.
And was that done with a person actually sitting in that right rear passenger seat?
Yes.
Okay. Was that tripod able to be removed from the seat?
No, not seated on top of it.
Okay. And did you or Detective Oliver or whomever reach between their legs and try to pull it out?
Yes.
I'm going to object if it's whomever.
Sustained.
Did you see that, Dunn?
Yes.
Was it able to come out?
No.
Was there any way to get that tripod out from underneath the seat?
You had to stand with the door open, get out of the car or the Durango, stand outside and reach underneath the seat and pull it out that way.
All right, so pull it out
Toward sideways.
Okay, very good.
Anything else?
You know, that's all I have at this time, thank you.
Ms. Hanania. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Sir, you indicated that you did a walkthrough, well, I'm sorry, let me back up for a second.
Ms. Hanania, can you adjust that?
Oh, absolutely, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Let me back up for a second, Detective Muser. You are the lead detective, lead homicide detective in this case, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And while you have a team that includes other detectives, is that right?
Yes.
It is primarily your responsibility as the lead detective to sort of direct the investigation. Would that be fair to say?
Fair. It's a fair assessment.
Okay, and certainly y'all work together collaboratively, but you decide what needs to be done and you ask your fellow detectives to assist you in getting those things done. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, throughout the course of your investigation, you create reports. Would that be correct, sir?
Correct.
And what you do is create eventually your main report, the main homicide supplemental report, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you're taught about how to create reports from the time that you go through the police academy. Would that be right?
Yes, ma'am.
And as an officer in the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, there isn't a single job that you've had at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office that doesn't include the creation of some reports. Would that be fair?
That's fair.
And your training that you received on that is to make those things as accurate as possible. Would that be right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because these are official records to some degree, correct?
Correct.
They are meant to memorialize the actions that you're taking throughout the course of this case, correct?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
Or whatever case you're working on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you're taught to make your reports as quickly as can while things are fresh in your head, correct?
They're done in a timely fashion. I don't know if I would use necessarily as quickly as possible.
They're done in a timely fashion.
Yes.
You're taught to make them as accurate as you can.
Yes, ma'am.
Because y'all do a lot of things, right?
Correct.
And it would be difficult, especially 2 years later, for you to just remember off the top of your head every little detail about what you did and when you did it, just from memory. Would that be fair?
Object to that is argument.
Sustained.
Could you, on every little detail, like the time of an interview or the date of a particular interview, remember all of those individual details without the help of refreshing your recollection with the report that you wrote for yourself?
It's used definitely to be able to remember some details. Some details you can just remember.
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying that you completely forget about it because some time has passed, but you wouldn't remember every little detail without your reports, right?
They're used to assist us, yes, ma'am.
And these are required to be kept under a central number, what's called a CCR number, by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, right, sir?
Correct.
Okay. And as part of your duties as the lead detective, that includes evaluating potential scenes of crimes, is that right? Not potential, but going to and evaluating a place where a crime allegedly occurred. Would that be right, sir?
Yes, I will go to a crime scene.
Okay. And interviewing witnesses, would that be right?
Yes.
As well as helping to collect or directing to collect and then have analyzed any potential physical evidence. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you indicated on your direct examination, sir, that you did what's called a walkthrough of the scene.
Correct.
Now, for clarity's sake, the scene that you're talking about is the scene at the gas station, is that right?
That is correct.
And meaning directly around that gate gas station, is that right?
Right, the gate gas station property.
Okay. So as was clear through your direct testimony, you're aware of the fact that there's an adjacent plaza that can be accessed through a drive-through from the gate gas station to that other plaza, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that plaza includes a number of businesses, is that right?
Yes, it does.
As well as a large parking area.
Yes.
Okay. And so when you said that you did a walkthrough of the scene that you're referring to does not include that adjacent plaza, is that right?
That is correct.
Doesn't include any of that parking area that is connected or associated with that adjacent plaza, correct?
No, it does not.
Okay, and it doesn't include any of the medians, the trees, the bushes, or anything contained within that adjacent plaza, correct?
No, it does not.
Okay, so you did a walkthrough of the immediate scene around the gas station. Did you at any time do a search for any weapons on the property of the gate gas station itself?
I wouldn't say weapons specifically, be looking for any kind of evidence of, I did make a visual inspection of the Durango looking to see if I observed any kind of evidence of weapons or, we were looking for anything in that parking lot that could be construed as being involved in that incident.
And when you say we were looking for anything, are you aware of whether or not the crime scene detectives at any point searched any area outside of where the Durango was parked or that area that's photographed in the photographs between where the Durango was parked when it came back and the front doors of the gate gas station?
I'm not aware specifically if the evidence technicians went outside of that area. I couldn't testify to them.
Okay. You're, as the lead detective, you're certainly not aware that they did go outside that area. Is that right?
I'm not aware if they did.
Okay. And you certainly didn't request of your colleagues that they do so. Would that be fair?
At that time, no, ma'am.
At any time in the gate gas station area, did you ask them to do that?
To look specifically for weapons?
Outside of that little area in the parking lot between where the Durango was and where the front doors were?
I don't recall if I asked them to go outside of what we'd kind of walked through
Okay.
visually. No, I don't recall doing that.
Okay. And so do you need to refresh your recollection with your report on that issue? Since you said you don't recall if you asked them.
I don't believe I didn't document that I asked them.
Okay. So there's nothing in your reports that indicated that you asked them to go beyond that small area where you did the walkthrough. Is
No,
that
ma'am.
right? Is that right, sir?
You're correct.
Okay. And would it be fair to say, sir, that, and again, we're just dealing with the gate gas station right now, would it be fair to say that, to your knowledge, the crime scene detectives did not evaluate any of the dumpsters or bushes or things of that nature around the area of the gate gas station itself?
I don't believe they did, no, ma'am.
Okay. Now, moving on to the adjacent plaza that we were talking about a moment ago, it was not secured, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so now let's talk for a moment. Certainly, as a homicide detective who's familiar with going to crime scenes, you understand the purpose of what it means to establish a perimeter. Is that right, sir?
Correct.
Okay, and the purpose of that would be to preserve and protect potential physical evidence. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
And by that, what we mean is that you don't want people coming into your crime scene and potentially removing evidence. Would that be fair?
It's to prevent people who shouldn't be in and out of a crime scene from coming, and it basically tries to hold the scene as original to the time of the incident as possible.
Okay. So you're trying to keep people out, right?
Correct.
Because you don't want any physical evidence within what you've secured to be tainted in some way?
We don't want it to be, obviously, yes, we don't want it to be messed with in any way.
Okay. You don't want it to be potentially destroyed?
Correct.
You don't want it to be potentially removed, correct?
That would be correct.
And you don't want anything added to the scene that wasn't there at the time that the incident occurred either, right?
That would be correct.
Okay. So that's why the tape goes up, to keep people who were already in, because you may need them, right?
Correct.
And to keep people who weren't there out, right?
Correct.
Now, the perimeter in this case was established around the Gate gas station property. It did not include that adjacent plaza. Is that right, sir?
That is correct.
And so then therefore, you didn't have the protection or preservation of that area where the SUV had driven to at all on the evening that the incident happened.
That is correct.
Okay. So because you didn't have that area where the Durango had driven to on that night secured, you also did not have that area searched. Would that be fair to say, on that night?
Did not.
Okay. And would it be correct, sir, that that area on the adjacent plaza was not searched until 4 days later?
That's correct.
And so on 4 days later, two of your colleagues go out to that area.
Yes.
And they go out there for dual purposes, or more than one purpose, let's put it that way. Is that right?
Yes, they're out there for multiple reasons.
Okay. One of the reasons they go out there is to look for any potential other video evidence of what happened. Is that right?
Yes.
Because you wanted to know, and you asked them to find out, if any of those other businesses along that plaza had outside surveillance that you would have liked to have taken a look at, right?
Yes.
Because maybe it would have given you some idea of where the SUV had gotten to, what the guys were doing, that type of thing.
Or indicated what else the suspect might have been doing at that time.
Absolutely. So they go out, they don't find anything else. Would that be fair in terms of any additional video surveillance?
That is correct.
Okay. And they're out there at the plaza adjacent to the gate for about 40 minutes that day. Would that be fair?
I would have to refer to the report to refresh my memory.
Would that help you to refresh your memory, sir?
Sure.
And the report that you're referring to, was that the report that you created in conjunction with your work in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that's an approximately, I think the last version was like 30 pages?
31.
I'm sorry?
31.
31 pages, okay. All right. If you will just refresh your recollection with that report, and let me know when you're done.
Yes, ma'am, approximately 40 minutes.
Okay. And during that time period, they contacted or tried to contact every single one of those multiple businesses that were in that plaza. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
Okay. And in addition to that, you asked them to do some type of search of the area for a potential weapon. Is that right, sir?
Correct.
And so it was at that time, 4 days later, that those two detectives, along with searching for video surveillance, did a search of some of the bushes, trees, the median, the separation between the plaza and Southside Boulevard, all of those areas they did some type of search of. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Okay. And it was at that point, sir, 4 days later, that some search of the dumpsters that were associated with these businesses were also searched, right?
Correct.
Again, because there were multiple businesses out there, there are multiple dumpsters. Is that right?
I'm not sure exactly how many dumpsters are out there, to be honest. I haven't counted them.
Sure. But you know from your report and from the information your colleagues gave to you that in the plaza itself, there's approximately 17 businesses, and then there's the Gate gas station, right?
That sounds about right, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it's fair to say, would it not be, sir, that it's likely that there's more than one or two dumpsters out there?
I know of two.
Okay. All right. Now, and so now at this point, within 40 minutes, they have contacted either owner or manager of each of these 17 businesses. They have done some type of search of the grounds and done some type of search of the dumpsters. However, whatever the number was at that time. Is that right, sir?
Correct.
Okay. Now, of course, 4 days later, they found nothing for any of their efforts. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, and it would be fair to say, sir, that at the time that you arrived to do this walkthrough of the gate gas station scene, that not only was this area in the adjacent plaza not secured, but there were actually people coming and going from that adjacent plaza. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, sir, you were asked if you were involved in taking a look at the Dodge Durango that's involved in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
And now, it's my understanding that you did see it there at the scene. Is
Correct.
that right? And you not only took a look at it yourself, you took a look at it in conjunction with your crime scene detective. Is that right?
Not that night.
Okay, so you just looked at it on your own at that time?
Like I said, I did a brief visual. The doors were open, so I did a brief visual looking in to see, basically look and see if I could see any evidence of any weapons.
Okay. Now, when you said the doors were open, you mean both the right and left rear passenger doors were open, or all four doors were open?
I believe all 4 doors were open.
Okay. So with all 4 doors open, you're taking a look inside the interior of the SUV. At that time, you don't make note of this tripod underneath the seat. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. You also don't make note of the projectile fragment at that point that's on the floor of the rear seat on the right-hand side. Is that right?
Yeah, because I don't recall seeing it.
Okay. Now, you go back and take another look at that Durango SUV 4 days later. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Now, you go back and take a look at it for several different purposes. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Now, based on your interviews with the occupants in the car, you go back to that car to check the child locks. Is that right?
That is correct.
Now, and by child locks, what I'm referring to is the lever that's found on the inside of a car door. Is that right? Is that your understanding as well, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And they're on the back seats for people to use for the protection of, that's exactly what they're called, child safety locks. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So a child riding around in the back seat can't open the door on its own and potentially get hurt, right?
That's their purpose, yes.
Okay. And they have a little sticker there that says, this is what it is. You push up to engage and push down to disengage, correct?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this particular car, the SUV, had that same little sticker that says, pull up to engage. Is that right?
I'd have to refresh my mind. There was something that indicated where the child locks were located, yes.
Okay. And at the time that you went back to examine the child locks were disengaged, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That means the child locks were off, right?
Correct.
And that means that an occupant of the rear seat of that Durango, if the child locks were off, could have opened that door from the inside of the car, correct?
If they were off, you could open it from the inside, yes, ma'am.
And sir, did you change the position of the child locks at any time?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did Detective Oliver change the position of the child locks at any time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Would any trained police officer, knowing the value of maintaining the integrity of physical evidence, have made a change based on your training to those child locks?
Sustained.
Sir, did any of the evidence technicians, crime scene detectives, or any other officers that were involved in the investigation of this case, did any of them report to you as the lead detective at any time that they had made any changes to the Dodge Durango?
No, they did not.
Okay. Did anyone ever indicate to you a need for them to have changed the position of the child locks?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And if, would you have expected that if that had been done, it would have been documented?
To the object has common speculation.
Sustained.
Would it be fair to say, sir, that crime scene detectives, just as all other Jacksonville sheriff's officers are, that they are trained in the same rules and requirements to create reports that you yourself were?
Yes, they do create their own reports, yes, ma'am.
And they're trained to create them in the same way? In other words, you all get the same lesson about what to do with reports and how to do them, right? To your knowledge?
Basic reports, yes. They're, being as they're a different unit, they may have different rules on exactly how they write their reports.
Okay. Now, sir, you testified on direct examination, I believe, that when you went back to, that when you went to that Dodge Durango 4 days later, that it was not yourself who dealt with the tripod, it was another detective, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And that you said it could not be removed while someone was sitting on the seat?
Yes, ma'am.
Just to make sure I'm clear, sir, is it that the weight of a person on the seat, or the fact that the car door is there? What, if you know, since you didn't do it yourself, what, if you know, was the impediment to the removal of that tripod?
Not having done it, I believe what it would look like is just when you're in the seat, it doesn't appear to be enough room to reach directly underneath and pull that item out.
Okay, so you didn't do it yourself.
No, ma'am.
But what you're not saying it's the weight or anything else. You're saying that, if I may just step around your honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What you're saying was that if someone was sitting in that seat, that they couldn't reach directly down underneath the seat and pull it out. Is that right?
The only way it appeared visible to get it out was you would have to have the door completely open and stand outside to get underneath the seat.
Okay. Now, sir, but you were not, since you didn't actually do it yourself, aware that there was actually an opening just to the side of directly beneath where the person would be sitting.
Yeah.
Aware of that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And that through that opening just to the side, that you could actually reach underneath that back seat?
To the objection has common speculation.
Your Honor, he elicited, if I may.
Well, I don't think he knows it, but it sounded like, but if you do, answer it.
Based on how you're describing it, and with the item was running lengthwise, even if you could slide your hand in here, you would still have the seat blocking. There wouldn't be any way that I can see you could get a hand on it to do anything with it.
And sir, you actually didn't sit in that car seat and do any of this, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the other thing, sir, is what you can say from your examination. And by the way, did you ever take it out and measure it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you photograph it? Did you take it out and photograph it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And what you can say from your examination of the car 4 days later is that that's where the tripod was at the time that the Durango was taken into custody by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, correct?
I would believe so, yes, ma'am.
Okay. You don't know, that doesn't mean to say that you can sit here and testify as to where that tripod was at the time the incident occurred.
No, I
Would that be
cannot.
fair to say?
I can't say that, no.
Okay. And by the way, sir, this event that you've just talked about, where yourself and another detective from your department went out and tested whether or not this tripod could be removed, that's not something that's in your report, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so this test that y'all did to see if this thing could be taken out is not included in your 31-page
No, ma'am.
homicide supplemental report?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, sir, I want to go back to, the scene for just a minute. One of the things that your team, I don't believe it was you directly, if I'm wrong, of course, please correct me, that one of the members of your team did was to identify the fact that the gas station had video surveillance. Is that right?
Actually, the original, when I arrived on scene, patrol officers had already obtained a copy of the surveillance video.
Okay, so from a different department of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, but still people you work with, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now what you discovered was that this video was only within the interior of the Gate gas station, is that right?
That is correct.
And by that, you mean that there weren't any cameras stationed outside the building, correct?
We have no video of any of the occurrence outside of the business, yes.
Okay, but there were multiple angles being recorded from within the business, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so while the video that y'all obtained shows the counter, or one particular area of the counter at the time that certain audio is played, there were multiple other angles, some of whom were pointed towards the exterior. Is that right, sir?
I know there were multiple cameras, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said that the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office patrol officers had already identified that there was video that also had audio, right?
I was not told that at the time, ma'am.
Okay, you as the lead detective didn't find out that there was audio on that tape until several days later. Is that fair to say?
I would say much later than that. In all my experience up to that time, I had never dealt with a system that actually had audio, so my fault, I didn't even know to ask. I didn't know it even existed.
Okay, but so when you say much later, you're talking about weeks later?
I would say months.
Months later, okay. And you would have known that as soon as you watched the video, correct, sir?
No, ma'am. When we watched it in the video, when it played on our computers in our office, there was no sound coming out. There's nothing indicated there was sound.
Because your particular computer didn't automatically play the audio. Other computers did play the audio.
Apparently so, yes, ma'am. All our computers have different programs on them. My computer would not even bring up the video. Originally, we had to find another detective's computer who would actually allow it to even be played.
Okay, so there were some ways that it could be played that the audio would have come through. You didn't get the benefit of that immediately, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. However, knowing that there was video surveillance within the Gate gas station, to your knowledge, the Gate gas station employees never cut that surveillance off, right?
Not that I'm aware of, no, ma'am.
Now, it's typical practice at a crime scene for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office to try to identify potential witnesses, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then detain them.
Yes, ma'am.
For either patrol officers or detectives to take their statements. Is that right?
Correct.
And as Mr. Guy already pointed out, there was the taking of several statements at the scene and then some later at the homicide office. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Okay. But before those statements could be taken, the witnesses are identified and gathered and kind of put in a holding pattern, so to speak, until you guys have the chance to get to them, right?
I know the patrol officers had witnesses go inside the business so they could keep an eye on where they were so they wouldn't lose track of them.
Okay. So, and in this case, there were multiple potential witnesses because of other customers that were there at the gas station. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And of course, the employees that were there at the gas station.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the three other guys who were in the car, right?
Correct.
Okay. So all of those people, at one point or another, were gathered in the Gate gas station, waiting to be either interviewed there at the scene or at some other location. Is that right, sir?
Witnesses, yes, I can't testify to the three individuals in the Durango, whether or not they were ever actually inside the business.
Okay. But you certainly knew that that was a place that they were, other witnesses were kept, right?
Correct.
And if hypothetically, those three other guys said that they were placed there, you're not saying that that's wrong, are you?
Sustain.
And sir, did you at any point ever go back to the Gate gas station and ask for additional video, even if you didn't know there was audio, additional video, given that so many of your witnesses were being held in the Gate gas station where you knew surveillance equipment was being? And certainly, you're aware that at that time, Ms. Rauer was made to take an oath to tell the truth, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that's the same, an oath that has the same effect as the oath you took when you took the stand here today, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that any witness would take when they come to court and testify, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And neither Mr. Thompson, nor Mr. Brunson, nor Mr. Storms were ever put under oath. Would that be fair to say?
That is correct.
Now, another person that you interviewed in conjunction with this case was Mr. Michael Dunn. Isn't that correct, sir?
Correct.
And at the time that you interviewed Mr. Dunn,
Mr. Guy?
I'm waiting for her to finish the question.
She stopped for you, so once you started to
Well, I'm
stand
going to
up.
object as to this as subject to a limited motion, and we've already.
Sustained.
sir, may I approach, Your Honor? Just
Sure.
for clarification, thank you.
With the court reporter. That's sustained, and Ms. Hannity, you may
Thank you, Your
continue.
Honor. May I have 1 moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor, for that moment. Okay, so you indicated on direct examination that one of the things that you did was to go down to Brevard County where you made contact with Ms. Rower. Is that correct?
2 separate occasions.
Yes, sir. First occasion there, and then a second occasion a few days later. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you not only documented through your notes, but later on through the audio and video recording, the statements that she made to you. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, there was a video recording of her interview.
And now, when you made contact with Ms. Rower, this was the following day. Is that right, sir?
It was Saturday the 24th.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been the day after this incident occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was frightened when she came into contact with the police. Would that be fair to say?
I don't know if I use the term frightened.
Well, she was scared of what might be happening to her. Not necessarily, I'm saying of you or your actions. She was concerned about her own future. Would that be fair to say?
To them rejected as calm or speculation.
Not if,
Overruled if he knows.
My recollection of her is that she was just very upset. It had been a traumatic incident as far as I don't recall her being anything directed at herself. She had just been through a traumatic event, and you could tell it was very disturbing to her.
but she thought that she could get arrested because she was present. Isn't that right, sir?
I believe she had that idea, yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, sir, you indicated that as part of your duties in this case, that you had collected the phone records of Mr. Thompson, Mr. Brunson, and Mr. Storms. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You did not, well, let me stop. You have the ability as a law enforcement officer to also, if the carrier provides it, order such things as text messages and other downloads related to cell phones. Is that correct?
I can. It takes a little more than a subpoena. Most companies now require a full search warrant before we can get anything like text messages and things like that.
Sure, but that wasn't the case 2 years ago.
It was at least a court order.
Okay, yeah, oh, yes, I understand. But if you have much more stringent requirements now to get that information than you did 2 years ago.
That's about right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, and these were 17 and 18-year-olds. It was their phone records that you sought. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. At least as to the phone call detail, right?
Yes.
And you were asked to review those phone calls and asked to review the duration. For Mr. Storms, isn't it true, sir, that his phone records indicate that he called 911 at 7:40 p.m. and that he hung up after 1 second? Isn't that correct?
I would like to actually
Absolutely.
review the records to comment on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Muser, I am handing you what's been introduced in State's Exhibit number 200 and State's Exhibit number 198. State's Exhibit 200, I believe you've previously identified as the records of Tommy Storms, and State's Exhibit number 198, the records of Mr. Thompson. Sir, please, those are the records that you received, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Please review both of those records for information regarding calls to 911 at the time that this incident occurred. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Have you had the opportunity to review those, sir?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
All right. And I believe my question was as to Mr. Storms. Isn't it correct, sir, that his call was made to 911 at 7:40 p.m. and lasted 1 second?
That's correct.
Okay. And then but it is also true, if you would just keep those out, it's also true that Mr. Storms made a number of other calls that lasted much longer in the minutes following that aborted call to 911.
They were longer than 1 second. Yes, ma'am.
And they were a minute, perhaps longer, and then multiple calls, correct?
Only one of them I see actually made it to a minute. The rest are less than a minute.
Okay. Now, going to Mr. Thompson's calls, it's true, sir, that his records reflect that a 911 call was made at 7:43 p.m.
Correct.
Okay. And Your Honor, if it's okay, I'll just collect those later so that.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Now, sir, I want to go back to one of the other things that you indicated you did as part of your investigation, which was to go and measure the distance as best as you could from the gas station to the place where, the approximate area where you believe that the SUV had stopped in the adjacent plaza. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
Now, so you measured from what you were told was the parking spot of where they were at the time that the shots went out, correct?
That's correct.
To that big sign, correct?
Correct.
And you had been told that they had been parked in the third parking spot, correct?
Correct.
And that Mr. Dunn had been parked in the second parking spot next to them.
Correct.
Right? And so when you did your measurements, you did it from the third parking spot to that big sign.
That is correct.
Okay. And that is over the length of a football field, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the other thing, sir, is that because you did not receive all the 911 calls that first night, correct?
That is correct.
In spite of the fact that you'd asked for them?
Yes.
Right? Okay. But at some point, at a later time, you actually received Chris LeBlanc's and Alyssa LeBlanc's 911 calls.
Yes.
So it wasn't until much later that you heard Mr. LeBlanc's statements that they had seen this SUV, correct?
Yes, it would have been on Friday the 30th, I believe.
Okay. And that you first heard this?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would have been November 30th of 2012?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would have been 7 days after the shooting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so it wasn't until then that you heard Chris LeBlanc's statement that it looked like the guys were stashing something in the vehicle. Is that right?
I believe that's the term he used on the 911 call. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Mr. Guy?
Thank you, Judge.
Pardon?
I realize the hour, sir.
Good.
Detective Muser, at the Police Memorial Building on the night of the 23rd, when you interviewed Leland Brunson, how far were you sitting from him?
Just across the table, maybe a couple feet.
Okay, was there anything between you, like glass or anything?
No.
Okay, you able to look him in the eye?
Yes.
And then you actually sat down with him a second time after midnight to show him the photo spread?
Correct.
All right. Based on your contact with Leland Brunson, did you see a need to order his text
Objection, Your
messages?
Honor. Improper.
Sorry. I didn't hear the question.
Your Honor, may we
Sure.
approach?
Yeah. But the court reporter. The objection sustained, you can rephrase that, Mr. Guy.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, after meeting with Leland Brunson those 2 times, once before midnight and once after, why didn't you order his text messages?
Had no indication there was any reason to do so.
When you met with Tevin Thompson, was it in the same manner, a couple feet away?
Yes.
Anything between you?
No.
You met with him twice?
Yes.
Why didn't you order his text messages?
There was nothing about what he was telling me that made me believe that I needed to do that.
I'm an objector. This witness is offering an opinion that's improper, and I would ask that it be stricken.
Sustain, we'll just strike that. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to consider that part. The fact of the matter is the text messages were not ordered.
And you met with Tommy Storns once, was it in the same manner, in an interview room just a couple feet apart?
Yes.
All right. Let me go back to a second to this tripod test, if
Correct.
you will. Who actually sat in the seat and put their hand under there?
Detective Oliver,
Okay, where were you when that happened?
standing outside the vehicle,
About how far from Detective Oliver?
a couple feet.
Were you present the whole time he was maneuvering or trying to maneuver the tripod?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever seen a shotgun with 3 barrels that kind of stick out like this?
I've never seen one, no.
You ever seen a shotgun with 4 barrels that stick out like that?
No, sir.
You were asked about not putting that tripod test, if you will, in your reports. Do you put absolutely everything that you do in an investigation in a report?
Not always with a situation like that. When we did that, quite honestly, I looked at it and thought,
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain.
okay.
I'll ask another question. Do you have any doubt about your memory of Detective Oliver trying to maneuver the tripod?
No, sir.
You were asked about searching the plaza that is next to the gate station that night.
Correct.
Okay. After you met with Leland Brunson and Tevin Thompson and Tommy Storns, did you go back out and search the plaza?
Not that night, no.
Why not?
Had no indication there was anything of evidence out there.
In the scene itself, actually inside the scene, there were shell casings on the ground.
Yes.
Okay. Was there any indication at or around the gate station that another firearm had been used? That is, more than one firearm?
No.
The shell casings appeared to be of the same caliber and so on?
Yes, they all appear to be the same.
And you were asked about the fact that the plaza wasn't taped off. Were there any police cars out there that night?
Yes.
Can you give the members of the jury an idea of how many?
I would say somewhere probably 8, 9, 10.
And by police cars, I mean like the white patrol cars with the blue bar and the shield on the side?
Yes.
Any detective cars out there that night?
Would have been 2 unmarked cars out there that night.
Nevertheless, you were asked about sending 2 detectives from your team back out to the plaza 4 days later.
Correct.
And they were looking for surveillance footage,
Yes.
and they were looking for weapons.
Correct.
Did they report to you that they found any firearms of any kind?
No.
Did they report to you that they found any shell casings of any kind?
No.
Did they report to you that they found any live ammunition of any kind?
No.
Any shotgun shells?
No.
Any weapons?
No.
Why didn't you record the statements of Leland Brunson, Tevin Thompson, or Tommy Storns?
They were witnesses.
Ronda Rower's statement was recorded.
Yes, it was, unknowingly.
Okay, and explain to the jury what you mean by that.
That interview with her was actually conducted down in Brevard County, and their recording system, apparently, when you walk in a room, it automatically kicks on. We had actually beforehand instructed them, don't turn it on, but after we finished our interview, we found that it in fact was running the whole time, so once we had it, we had it.
All right, and a sworn statement was taken of Ronda Rower.
Correct.
Whose decision was that?
Ms. Wilson?
Okay, Ms. Wilson sitting at the table in front of me?
Yes.
All right. A sworn statement was taken that evening, and I mean, I'm going back now, to the 23rd of Sean Atkins. Whose decision was that?
Ms. Wolfson's.
Was Ms. Wilson present at the police station the night of the 23rd?
Yes, she was.
At the same time that Leland Brunson and Tommy Storms and Tevin Thompson were there?
Yes, she was.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further, thank you, sir.
May he be excused?
Subject to recall, yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Detective. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a lunch break until 25 minutes of 2. Sorry we went this long, but I just wanted to make sure we got through this witness. Please don't discuss the case among yourselves or with others. We'll watch out for your notes while you're having lunch. Enjoy your lunch. We'll see you back in about an hour.